that's another reason why Bitcoin is deeply spiritual,
Hmm.
because it came along at the precise time that humanity needed it most. Bitcoin kind of clarifies your values and
Yeah.
makes you realize that the life you were living before wasn't necessarily a life of your own design.
All the things that you've once prioritized kind of just all start to just fade away. I'd rather just continue to stack Bitcoin and then in the future just cherish the time that I have with my family.
Realizing that Bitcoin really is the only thing that matters. All this other
Right.
stuff we've been conditioned to want. Why do we want it?
Yeah.
It was all just conditioning. How Bitcoin, it's not about making money anymore. It's about making a statement.
Yep.
And decentralization is actually a deeply spiritual principle. It's like we're all separate nodes, but yet we're all connected as one. And it's just in line with the universal principle of like divine unity, like we're all one. And that's a
I love it.
problem with our world is that we're all separate and we don't
Hmm.
realize how connected we are. And that's what leads to a lot of problems.
Yeah.
And Bitcoin kind
That's,
of brings people together.
Bitcoin is like almost like a godsend, or it's divine. Like it
Yeah.
because I mean, think about people always say, what if we didn't have Bitcoin? Like what other option would we have? And it would be
Yeah.
very, very bleak. Like
It's something that actually is better for your soul, being a
yeah,
creator for the world, as opposed to just always consuming and taking from the world.
stories of like they adopt the Bitcoin standard and all of a sudden they're into fitness, the eating
Yeah,
right, taking care of their
yeah.
body and spirituality. Like it's something about Bitcoin that like it just fuses all that together.
All right, welcome to episode 2 of The Signal. We've got Nolan Martino here. He works for Fidelity Investments and he's a full Bitcoin maxi and he's ready to drop some signal here. So I've been going through your Substack, and you've got some deep insights on your Substack for anyone watching this podcast. Definitely go check out his stuff on Substack. He's dropping some pearls of wisdom there. One of the things that stuck out is you said the traditional roadmap is a trap. So what made you start questioning it at such a young age, and why do you think so few other people do that same questioning that you did?
Yeah, that's a great question. And thank you for having me on the show. Super excited to be here. I don't know. I just think it was, I always said that it was something in me as a kid. I just knew something wasn't right. Like the prescription that they tell everybody to do or follow, go to school, 18, go to college, work for 40 years, put your money in a 401k, and then, hopefully at 65 you have enough to retire and spend 10 to 15 years of your life free. That never ever made sense to me. And I just always questioned it as a kid because I would just see society follow that script and it seemed like it never worked. So I'm like, yeah, I don't know if I want to follow that. So, yeah. And then it all made sense when I found Bitcoin. I was like, okay, now I understand it. Now I get the problem.
Hmm.
And then from there, it was pretty easy for me to get Bitcoin because of that. And then after that, I just fully transitioned to a Bitcoin standard and I haven't looked back since.
Nice. And in reading through your Substack, you mentioned that before you found Bitcoin, you would look for other escape hatches, is how you described them. You described
Hmm.
like sports as an escape hatch, entrepreneurship,
Yeah.
stocks, altcoins. And then
Hmm.
you also talk about how in Black culture, it's often thought that you need to become an athlete or a rapper, and those are really the only two escape hatches. So, what made Bitcoin finally click for you and made you realize that Bitcoin is actually the ultimate escape hatch?
I think it finally clicked for me just because it was the answer to the system. It was the answer to the fiat system, the answer to just all the corruption and the money printing, the debasement of your purchasing power. It just all finally clicked. And to going back to your point of like in Black culture, sports and rap being the only way out. I mean, that's what it feels like. It feels like if you're not a superstar athlete that's going top 10 in the draft, or if you're not an A-list rapper, it's like, what else is there for me to do, right? Because we're
Hmm.
not taught entrepreneurship in school. We're not taught how money works. We're not taught how to run and launch a business. So you're kind of like, what do I do next? So again, finding Bitcoin for me was just like a breath of fresh air because like, okay, I can just there is a way to wealth without having to, again, be an athlete or being a rapper. I can just contribute value to the world, saving this money that no one else can print. And I know that over time, my purchasing power will grow, and that will give me more optionality and freedom to do what I want in life. And I have to be subscribed to this rat race that everyone else is on for, 65, 70 years.
Yeah, no, it seems so simple once you see it, right? It's like, how did
Yeah.
we not see it before? And how do other people not see it?
So
And
what's the saying? Once you see it, you can't unsee it, right?
yeah, it's so simple too. And yeah, I'm thankful every day that for whatever reason I was given the ability to see it. And
Yeah.
I think a lot about why some people are given that ability to see it and some people aren't.
Me too.
Um,
I think about that very often as well. Like, and I'm just so blessed, and I always thank
yeah,
God. Like, because it's funny now that now that we see it, it's like, how do people not see it? But when I didn't see it, you don't know, right? You
yeah,
just aware of what's going on around you. So for me, being able to see it so vividly, it's now about, okay, how can I help other people begin to see it vividly and help them make that transition so that they can protect themselves and their family and protect their time and energy, which is money. So exactly to your point. Yeah, it's just like we got to get other people to
yeah.
see it.
Yeah, I had some guy describe it recently as it's almost as if you have been given this knowledge that there's going to be a meteor that's going to strike the earth.
Yeah.
And if you have that knowledge, you're almost obligated to tell everyone you know, all of your loved ones about this meteor so that they can
Exactly.
prepare.
Yeah.
And the dilemma that we often get stuck in is that as we're telling people about this meteor, they often don't believe us, or it's difficult to get them to believe, or they think you're crazy.
Yeah.
So
I
it's a
love
tough.
the and I love the term you use, obligation, because
Yeah.
that's what I tell my parents and my friends and family. That's what it feels like to me. It feels like obligation, and it really feels like purpose and calling. Like you said, have been given this foresight to know this information. It is your duty to tell as many people as you can about this. And of course, it's ultimately up to them if they want to, decide whether or not to be into Bitcoin and start saving in Bitcoin. But it is at least your obligation to give the information to help as many people as possible. Because I feel like it's if you didn't do that, you would be like extremely selfish. Like, how
Hmm.
do you have all this information and not share with people? And that was the thing that really nudged me to get on social media and start posting about it. Because for the first, I don't know, 6 months to a year, when I was going down the Bitcoin rabbit hole, I was understanding it, I was learning it, but I wasn't posting about it. Maybe because I was still trying to understand it myself, but I didn't just feel like I didn't want to be that guy, just always posting about Bitcoin or whatever.
Hmm.
But something just clicked for me one day. It was like, this is a moral obligation that you have to do. If you can help even just one person, it makes all the difference in the world, and then it's worth it. And that's when I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna start posting, and I haven't looked back since. I just, again, to your point, just felt like it was a moral obligation. So I love that you said that.
Yeah, that resonates deeply with me too, because yeah, when I first went down the Bitcoin rabbit hole, I was just consuming and consuming and just consuming more information. But then this seems to be a pretty common story that a lot of Bitcoiners have is at some point something just shifts in your brain where
Yeah.
you realize I shouldn't be just consuming. That's kind of
Hmm.
one of the problems of the fiat world is we just consume and you
Hmm.
shift. Bitcoin forces your mind to shift into this mode of being a consumer to a creator.
Yeah.
And
Producer.
it's something that actually is better for your soul, being a
Yeah.
creator for the world, as opposed to just always consuming and taking from the world, but
Yeah.
actually like putting something out into the world. It's such an incredible thing for your soul, and you're not only helping Bitcoin, but you're actually helping yourself because you're instead of just doing something for the fiat world, you're doing something with purpose and bringing helping the Bitcoin path forward,
Mhm.
and yeah, it changes your life, and it's a beautiful
Does.
thing.
It really does.
Yeah.
And just to your point, like being a creator and a producer, I mean, the Bible says that we're made in God's image, and where if God is a creator, then we are here as creators to create on this earth. So it's only right that we produce and we create things of value to help other people. So again, it just goes right in line with the Bitcoin ethos.
Yeah, and I've been having this thought recently about decentralization because I think this is a problem is that when we throw words around like decentralization, um, other people don't necessarily understand it, and we don't fully comprehend exactly how significant that is.
Yeah.
But I've been thinking a lot about like the spiritual parallels between that Bitcoin has,
Hmm.
and decentralization is actually a deeply spiritual principle. It's like we're all separate nodes, but yet we're all connected as one, and
Hmm.
that's a very deep spiritual principle. Like
Yeah.
we're all one,
Hmm.
and yeah, it's a beautiful thing being a part of this decentralized network because we're
Hmm.
individuals, but we're part of that network, and it's only making it stronger, and it's just in line with the universal principle of like divine unity, like we're all one. And that's a
I love it.
problem with our world is that we're all separate and we don't
Hmm.
realize how connected we are, and that's what leads to a lot of problems.
Yeah.
And Bitcoin kind
That's
of brings people together.
that's so beautiful. I've never thought
Yeah,
about it that way, and it makes complete sense. Yeah, we're one as humanity, we're one race, and it makes sense that
yeah.
even though we're all individual people, we all collectively are one race. So that is really beautiful. I like that.
Yeah, that's what really inspires me deeply about Bitcoin is those spiritual principles
Me too. Me
and
too.
about how it's part of this huge global awakening,
Hmm.
and it's going to be central to getting humanity back on course. And now that we have Bitcoin, so many people have hope that we can get humanity back on course.
Yeah. As they say, Bitcoin is hope. So
Yeah,
I feel like again to the spiritual point that Bitcoin is like almost like a godsend or it's divine. Like it
yeah,
because I mean, think about people always say, what if we didn't have Bitcoin? Like, what other option would we have? And it would be
yeah,
very, very bleak. Like,
yeah,
you know, it would, it's really just the fiat system. And outside of that, maybe gold, but they figured out a way how to corrupt gold. So it literally Bitcoin is the only way out, and just so grateful to be alive at this time as we see a new form of money emerging. And that could realign all the incentives and just, as I say, usher the world into a new global renaissance and just basically just upgrade humanity in every way possible.
yeah.
Yeah.
And you made reference to the Bible or God earlier.
Yeah.
I'm curious, what is your religious background, and do you feel like there's any connection with your religious background and Bitcoin?
Yes. Was raised Christian as a kid, still a Christian. Bibles every or not Bible, church every Sunday. Read the Bible throughout the week. And yeah, I just think there's a multiple parallels within the Bible and Bitcoin. I always go back to the unjust measures and weights. Like
Mm,
I feel like that is a direct parallel to the fiat system in Bitcoin because
yeah,
obviously the fiat system is very unjust parallel measures and weights, and that Bitcoin is a very just measures and weights. You know the supply, you know that one Bitcoin equals one Bitcoin. There is nobody, printing more of it. So I always look at it from that standpoint. There's multiple other standpoints that you can look at it from. But that's kind of the one I always tie down to, especially when I'm talking with people. Uh, you know,
yeah,
just weights and measures.
yeah. Can you expand on that more? What the meaning is in terms of the Bible, in terms of just weights and measures?
Yep. Again, I'm not a Bible scholar. I read,
Yeah,
but I'm not a Bible scholar by any means. But I interpret it as basically that, again, as we all know, one Bitcoin equals one Bitcoin. And that Bitcoin is going to be the same Bitcoin anywhere in the world that you send to anybody. Where with the fiat system, unjust weights and measures, the central bank are printing money. So it is creating an unfair system where basically the value is getting debased and cheapened and lessening of your purchasing power over time. So you're basically just not being able to retain the fruits of your labor. So you're just as we all know, you're getting debased. I don't know if that was the best way to explain it, but I think that's kind of just how I look at it. One
yeah,
is a complete fair system, which is Bitcoin, and one is the other, which is and the other one is unfair, which is fiat. So yeah, that's kind of just how I look at it. This unjust weights and measures.
yeah. No, that was a great explanation. I love how you broke that down.
Thank you.
And in your Substack writings, you describe fiat currency as a hidden thief that steals our time and energy. And that's a common idea that all of us Bitcoiners understand. But can you unpack that idea for people who still trust the system and don't quite understand what that means?
Yep. So I look at it as I reference Jack Mahler's how he says money is time and energy in a extracted form. So if someone can basically print money and you have to go to work 8 hours a day, 5 days a week and work for this money, but then someone else can create it, well then they're basically devaluing your time because you had to go work really hard for that money. They didn't have to work at all. So then if we go keep going down this chain of command, if they're being able to debase your time and your life is comprised of time, which is your scarcest asset, then they're debasing your life. That is the problem. So, and that's why people talk about this like rat race where unfortunately you see people at 65, 70, 75 years old still working and working at like, Walmart and Target is because they did not understand money and that say maybe they were saving money in their savings account or under the mattress or whatever. They're basically just getting siphoned, their purchasing power is getting siphoned off over time. And that's why they have to keep working, working, and working because everything else is getting more and more expensive, but their money isn't growing. It's actually losing value over time. So that's why it's a silent thief. And excuse me, and most people aren't aware of it, right? Most people don't know what the root cause of the problem is. People look to politicians or it's the capitalist system or it's somebody, but that's not it. We all know what the real root problem is, and it's the fiat system. And that is just stealing and siphoning off your purchasing power. And that makes you just work longer and longer and longer because you're having to keep working for this piece of paper that's being printed and it's being debased every single day. So that's why we talk about if you just can move your purchasing power from one system to the other, then all that stuff goes away. You get to retain your value, retain your purchasing power, and it only goes up over time, giving you more optionality and freedom to do what you please in the later years. As we know, low time preference lifestyle. So that's kind of how I look at as fiat is a silent thief that just steals your purchasing power if you're not aware of it.
Yeah, if you just think about it and understand what's going on, it really is the greatest travesty of all time is your
Really.
your life force getting stolen from you. Your
Mm.
life force is this priceless concept, and it's just getting stolen from you,
Oh yeah.
and it's happening to everybody. And all you have to do is just move your energy out of the fiat system and into Bitcoin.
Yeah.
It's very simple, and then you prevent that travesty from happening to yourself.
Yeah. It
And that
really is a
yeah,
tragedy. I mean,
yeah,
to think that you're working your entire life for this thing and it's just being literally just your time and energy is being stolen from you. And I think that's the thing that aggravates me the most about the fiat system or just like about the entire system as a whole and why I became so passionate about this is because and it goes back to what we mentioned earlier of like always knowing something was off with the system and that we finally have an answer to it and understanding of it. It's just that they are literally robbing people's lives if you think about it
yeah,
because it's just like people can't then be like they can't do what they were came here to do on this earth, right? If someone is a beautiful artist or a musician or whatever and but they can't give all their time and energy to that because they're having to put food on the table and take care of their family. So you have this massive skill and talent that you were divinely gifted, but you're not being able to exercise it. Um, you're not ever being able to exercise it because that you're always having to work harder and harder and harder for this piece of paper, and those talents and skills and gifts never gets out to the world. And that's what we talked about earlier. It's just like it's soul crushing because you're not actually living in your divine purpose.
yeah.
Yeah.
There's this meme that has been going around recently that I think hits home for people that don't really get Bitcoin. It's they give an example of someone who diligently worked for 50 years and
Mhm.
they saved and they did everything society said, and then over the last 5 years, they've printed 40% of the overall money supply
Yeah.
in 5 years. And so what that means is that this person who worked for 50 years and saved their money, now 20 years have gotten stolen. So it's
Yeah.
as if they only worked 30 years because the money supply got expanded by 40%
Yeah. It's just
in just 5 years. So
it's
those
it's
20
disgusting.
years of
Yeah.
blood, sweat, and tears and energy and life force just erased.
It's it's the it's just so unjust, and I know
Yeah,
exactly who you're talking about. I actually
yeah.
have it saved somewhere. Yeah, it's just a tragedy. I mean, and those people are usually 65, 70, nearing retirement. Imagine the people during COVID, right? They're seeing all this stuff unfold. They may have just entered retirement 2019, 2020, and then they see the tsunami of money printing happening, and they just see all their savings just get cut in half, as you said. I mean, that it has to be just demoralizing, knowing that, say, 2019, you're looking at your retirement portfolio like, hey, okay, I got enough to retire.
Mhm,
I'm good. I can take care of myself and my family. And 2 years later, you're looking at it again, and it's like, oh, I got to go back to work. Like
mhm.
that is just, I, it's just sickening. It's evil
Yeah.
to me. It's really just evil. So again, just getting people to understand that all you have to do is just transition your time and energy and your from one system to the other, and all that stuff goes away. All that fiat mess and garbage literally is just thrown away, and you're on a completely new
Mhm.
paradigm, a new standard that is going. It's engineered money to protect your time and energy and grow your purchasing power forever.
Yeah. You gave the example of the artist.
Yep.
So can you explain how if the artist were to shift over to a Bitcoin standard and once more people shift over to the Bitcoin standard, how that is going to lead to this global renaissance that you referenced?
I just think is that people are going to finally be able to follow their passions and the things that mean the most to them. So, say, somebody coming out of college, they can maybe work for 5, 10 years at a job or whatever, make the money they need to make, store it in Bitcoin, and then in 10 years' time, you've 5x, 10x, 20x your purchasing power. And now you have that optionality. If the
Mm,
job that you're at you don't like or you want to do something different, you can leave and then now go follow your passions, open that dream business, travel the world. You have freedom and optionality to do that. But in a fiat system where houses are getting more expensive, food is getting more expensive, everything is getting more expensive, you don't have that optionality. You're out here just trying to survive.
mm,
So that's just that paradigm shift, right? Like, oh, I can just put my money in the system and it's a savings vehicle. So I know that over time I'm going to be afforded more freedom to do the things I truly care about, and I can give my energy and contribute to it to the world with my talents and skills, and change the world in the way I think is best possible. That, and you're not able to do that for everybody. That's what I mean by the global renaissance and ushering just a new beautiful world. I mean, I'm sure you've probably seen back in like the 1800s, or yeah, 1800s, when we were on a sound money standard, how the beautiful buildings and architecture and
mhm.
the beautiful art that was created during that period. And then now we see today, it's like all the buildings look the same. There is no just, really beautiful art that's being made. And that's just a function of the fiat system, right? Because it's everything's getting more expensive to build, like for homes and buildings. So you don't have the time to like just really architect and construct something so beautiful that's going to be around for decades
Mhm.
to come. You don't have that luxury, but on a
Yeah.
Bitcoin standard, you will.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. That's a beautiful explanation. And then also just kind of taking it a little bit further, um, right now, society overall is just not incentivized to think long term about what's good for society long term. And so we're all just so focused on the short term.
Mhm.
But as part of this global renaissance, humanity is going to be doing incredible things like exploring the galaxy, and humanity is capable of so much, but we're limited by this fiat system and this fiat thinking. If we can just take off that limiting factor and tap into our our infinite creativity and our infinite abundance, we're going to be traveling the galaxy,
Yeah,
we're going to be doing so many things that our brains can't even comprehend right now.
absolutely. I mean, we'll be able to explore different planets, just tap into, like you said, things that we probably aren't even aware of at this moment, but we'll be able to have the freedom and I say the thinking power to be able to solve new problems that we aren't even aware of yet, because we'll just have
Yeah,
more time and freedom to do so.
yeah.
Yeah.
And in your writings, you mentioned how you went from diversification to full conviction.
Yep.
And so what's the psychological shift that happened that allowed you to go full conviction? And now
Mhm.
that you are full conviction, how has that changed the way you approach your life.
Yeah, so let's go back to as I'm going down the Bitcoin rabbit hole, I'm starting to understand it. So I'm building my position, but I still have some stocks, like I still have some S&P 500 stuff, Apple, Microsoft, and I think I still have like some crypto, right? But as I'm learning more and more about it, I'm like, why do I need any of this stuff, right?
Yeah.
If the broken money is a problem and then we have a solution to fix the money, well, then I don't need any of these other assets, especially since they're not outperforming Bitcoin. So let me just sell all that stuff, put it into Bitcoin, and I'll be good, which I ended up doing. And how I look at, since I am on a full Bitcoin standard, or I'm almost there. I'm almost there on a fully Bitcoin standard. I I produce value in the world at my job, make money, pay off my expenses, and save in Bitcoin. And that's just kind of how I look at it. And I'm now looking at more ways to try to create value for the world, create some things that I would like to see, and then, still produce more value and then just put it in a Bitcoin. And that's kind of just how I go about it. So I'm trying to go back and think if I missed anything on my story about this stocks and crypto. Oh, for the stocks. So like people always talk about like, okay, well, what about the S&P 500? Well, this was the big thing for me. Are you familiar with the website Priced in Bitcoin 21?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I love that
So
website.
yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
So you see, the S&P going up at all-time high in dollar terms. You're like, oh yeah, like I'm at all-time highs. I'm a genius. I'm getting rich.
Mhm.
Price it in Bitcoin where you can't continuously add more units to the supply and it being manipulated. S&P is down like I think almost 90% in I think over the last 5-10 years priced in Bitcoin. So that was the eye-opening thing for me. Like, oh, okay, like it's down, everything's down drastically priced in Bitcoin. Why am I still holding the S&P 500 or any stocks? Let me just move that over to Bitcoin and just chill out.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you mentioned that this one tweet from Chris Johnson just played a huge role in shifting you into a maxi. Can you
Yep.
talk about that quote and how it affected you?
Yeah, I got to give full shout out to Chris. He was pivotal in my orange pilling journey. Because I was following him on Twitter for a while back in like 2022, 2021, and he was in the, crypto at that time. He had his .eth in his profile, and then I know just like 2, 3 years later, he went full maxi, Bitcoin maxi, and I'm like, and at that time I still had some crypto, so I'm thinking like he's always tweeting, Bitcoin only, don't forget about the crypto and all the other altcoins. And I'm like, huh. So I was having some cognitive dissonance. To be honest, I was like, maybe he doesn't know what he's talking about. I'm gonna hold on to these altcoins. They're gonna outperform Bitcoin in the bull cycle, and I'm gonna be a genius. And as I just kept learning more and more about Bitcoin, he I can't remember the tweet he said. Oh yes, there is nothing more important than understanding money and what is going on in the world. And that led me to the hidden secrets of money. Are you familiar with that playlist
No.
that episode? You have to watch that on YouTube. It's the Hidden
Okay.
Secrets of Money by Mike Maloney. And he's a gold bug. And he talks about, and this was like 11, 12 years ago in this docu-series, and he talks about all the problems that are going on in a fiat money system. And I mean, it is literally like perfect with what is going on right now in the world. So definitely check that out. And that's what kind of led me to, going down the rabbit hole and then selling all my other crypto, selling all my other stocks, and just being like a full-on maxi. And it's really shout out to Chris because of that. I would still be maybe having some other diversification portfolios and stuff if it wasn't for him. So I definitely appreciate him.
Yeah, I love following his stuff too and his podcast. He really breaks it down so well. It's just it's so obvious when you break it down the way that he does.
Yeah,
And to see
he's
someone actually do it, like selling his
hmm
watches, selling his cars, and just
and all of it. Yeah.
realizing that Bitcoin really is the only thing that matters. All this other
Right.
stuff we've been conditioned to want, why do we want it?
Yeah.
It was all just conditioning.
Yeah, absolutely. And another point too, once I understood Bitcoin, and then you're asking yourself, like, am I insane for going 100% all into Bitcoin? But then you ask yourself, what are my other options? That was the question that I kept asking myself. What else can I put my money into? And you quickly realize there isn't anything else to put your
Yeah,
money into. Why would I ever want to buy a bond? Like, especially me at my age at 24, I would never, ever, ever want to buy a bond. and I would never ever want to lend money to the US government. And what else? Stocks, I mean, as we just talked about before, they're going up in dollar terms, but we've seen now that people who have, this diversified stock portfolio and it's, at all-time highs, but they still feel like they're not richer, they're not wealthier if they were to cash that out and go into the economy and buy stuff, right? Because we know the S&P is just tracking the monetary inflation, the monetary supply.
Hmm.
So you're getting richer nominally, but you're not actually getting richer in purchasing power. So stocks are out. Real estate is extremely unaffordable for most everybody, and it's like, well, how can you really build wealth in that? And what is your projected returns in real estate, right? If you buy a $400,000 house and it goes to $800,000, you doubled your money. But like that's it, like
Hmm.
that's not the best option either. So again, it just makes sense that like Bitcoin is the best money and it has a whole lot of room to run in the future. Let me just park my money here and just chill out.
Yeah. Are your peers, are they aware, and do they have a similar mindset as you, or are you rare amongst your peers in that you've been able to see this?
Yeah, I think I'm still rare amongst my peers. We all know we're still extremely early, but I think it's starting to rub off on them, and they're starting to understand it. And they obviously aren't like a full maxi like me, but they're starting to build a little position and just get exposed to the asset, which is what matters. So, um, yeah, I think it's starting to come around. And of course, Bitcoin's price going up is always the best advertisement. So, one by one, I think more people are starting to come around. I had actually somebody DM me yesterday from one of my stories saying he just bought some Bitcoin and started his position from seeing all my stories.
Nice.
So
Oh, that's
that's what,
exciting.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's what it means. That's what it
Yeah.
means the most to me, and that's why I do it. So one person at a time, and we'll get there, one person at a
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
So now that you think in Bitcoin terms and not fiat terms, has that changed your future vision, like how you see your life unfolding? And
hmm
and if so, how was it before and how is it now?
Yeah, I mean, before it was just trying to figure out how to like get rich, get wealthy, right? Again, it goes back to always like thinking about being an athlete or rapper, and that was never two outcomes for me. So I was just trying to figure out like in the fiat system, what can I do to make as much money as possible? But now in the Bitcoin standard, where you're going to be taken care of in the future, it's just about figuring out what you want to do, kind of how you want to structure and cultivate your life. So for me, I definitely want to travel. So, travel the world, see all the beautiful sights and experience that hopefully with my future family, and continue to do just purposeful work that I just wake up energized, want to do every day, and that I feel like can change the world, which is extremely important to me. And of course, like I said earlier, have a family, have kids, and then be able to raise them, and yeah, just kind of be able to just give all my information and all my insights to them. And yeah, I think that's really the main 3 points: is to travel, do purposeful work, and have a family and raise beautiful kids.
Yeah, it's really interesting how Bitcoin kind of clarifies your values and
Yeah.
makes you realize that the life you were living before wasn't necessarily a life of your own design. It was just what
Yes.
society wanted you to want.
Yeah.
And so, yeah,
And
yeah, yeah. Go
yeah,
ahead.
to that point, sorry, I forgot about something. Is now like I'm actually gonna write a Substack on this, how you don't change Bitcoin, Bitcoin changes you. And the things I want, like I've always had on my dream board a Lamborghini Aventador SVJ and the Lamborghini Urus truck. And as I just continue to learn more and more and go down deeper into the rabbit hole, all that stuff kind of just slowly starts to fade away. Like, does still a little bit of me want the Lamborghini? Of course. But it used to take up so much importance of me in the fiat system. Like, I'm gonna be a multimillionaire and I'm gonna have all these cars and like, I'm gonna be like just materialistic. Now it's like, if I have the car, cool. If I don't, cool. Like, I'm good either way. So that's another thing that's kind of changed in the Bitcoin lens. And it was tough at first, right? Because it's like all the things that you've once prioritized kind of just all start to just fade away. Like having this massive house as well was one of my goals. Having this huge mansion and cars and stuff, like that stuff just isn't important anymore to me. I'd rather just continue to stack Bitcoin and then in the future just cherish the time that I have with my family. And then I rather pass off my Bitcoin to them rather than pass off a Lamborghini and a massive house, you know? Like
Yeah.
that stuff is more important to me now. And if the cars and stuff come, cool. If not, cool. Like I'll be all right.
Yeah, I resonate very deeply with that because that's my exact experience. Where before, yeah, I wanted the big house and the cars uh, and to compete in that rat race, but now all that just went away, and
Yeah,
I
it
feel
goes
so much
away.
more at peace that
Yeah,
now
you
that
do.
why did I want that stuff and that stuff? If anything, it was just a chain. They would have been chains. So I'm
Literally.
so glad that I figured it out before I went down that route, so that I don't get trapped with those chains.
Exactly. And that's exactly how I look at it. I'm glad you said that term change because that's exactly what it is, right? Having a big house and having $1 million mortgage, to me, that doesn't feel like freedom anymore. Or having a Lambo and having a car note. Like that's not freedom to me. Having freedom is being able to just wake up, do what you want with your time, again, do purposeful work and be able to just enjoy your day and not have to, be at the whim of somebody else's schedule for for your life, you know? So yeah, I just completely resonate with that as well, right? I'm at the point where I want as little like not responsibilities, little um I guess maybe responsibilities like to me. So I don't want if I don't have to have a mortgage, I won't want to have a mortgage. If I don't have to have a car note, I don't want to have a car note. I'm good on buying a bunch of clothes and stuff. Like I just want to be able to, have my stack of Bitcoin and be able to do what I want. And that's I think the Bitcoin journey, right? That's what it does to
Yeah,
you.
yeah. So
Yeah.
people that are on the Bitcoin journey know exactly what you're talking about, and I sometimes struggle to explain how that shift happens. It's
Mhm.
just Bitcoin just it changes you, but how exactly does it make these changes? Like how did it shift us from being materialistic to not materialistic? Do you have a good explanation for
Yeah,
that?
I think yeah, excuse me. I think the biggest indicator or the biggest thing that causes that is which we all know is the low time preference lifestyle,
Hmm.
right? In the fiat system, which we don't really know, but we kind of just like subconsciously know that the money is not holding value over time, right? So you're incentivized to go spend it, right? We're consumers, right? We make money, we don't think about saving it. Let's just go to the mall and buy stuff. Let's go get out. Let's go out and get food. Let's go to vacations that we know we can't afford. Let's just go spend, spend, spend. That all again goes out the window too in a Bitcoin standard low time preference lifestyle where you know there's an opportunity cost to spending that Bitcoin, which is the thing for me.
Hmm.
I always talk about with my family, what is the opportunity cost? So, um, yeah, in a low time preference lifestyle, you know that you're going to have more in the future. So you're very, very hesitant, or yeah, you're very much more hesitant on what you want to spend that money on. You're not going to spend it on garbage, because you know you're going to miss out on that opportunity cost. And I think that is the sole reason why Bitcoin changes you. You're going from just a high time preference lifestyle to a low time preference lifestyle. So again, it just goes back to a lot of your priorities and things that you thought mattered, they don't matter on a Bitcoin standard.
Yeah. Yeah, there's this concept called self-Bitcoinization, which is how Bitcoin changes you. And
Okay. I've heard
it's
that
a
one.
it's an incredible concept, and it's incredible to see the self-Bitcoinization process in people and in myself, because I've always been someone who liked to read self-help books and go to seminars and search for something deeper, and always striving for the next tip or
Yep.
next like piece of advice. And so I would go to these seminars and read these books, and you get some good tips, and you get a temporary high from it. But
Hmm.
this Bitcoin is like this permanent paradigm shift that it's everything I was looking for, and it automatically happens when you embrace the ethos, and you don't have to look for a book or go to a talk. It automatically just
Yeah, you just like
makes these
embody
changes.
that stuff. Yeah,
Yeah,
you like embody
yeah,
that self-help ideology, right? And
yeah,
I'm sure you've seen other people's journeys and stories of like they adopt the Bitcoin standard and all of a sudden they're into fitness, the eating
yeah,
right, taking care of their
yeah,
body and spirituality. Like it's something about Bitcoin that like it just fuses all that together. I guess it goes back again to the low time preference lifestyle. And yeah, it's just amazing to see that change in people where they start caring more about, as I just mentioned, all that good, all that stuff, rather than just being a high time preference, nihilistic consumption person.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy how the orange pill with money in terms of Bitcoin, how you see how things are just not as you always thought they were.
Hmm.
How there's like so much more to it, and there's a lot of um, negative forces behind things that you never would have expected. You just think,
Right.
oh, it's money, the government has our best interest, but then you realize all these negative forces behind it, and then it just makes you think about other areas of your life where
Yeah.
you had never questioned it, and then you
Yeah.
start questioning other areas. So
Yeah.
have you had that experience too, where there are
Oh,
other areas that you're now questioning and peeling back the layers?
absolutely. Everything's up for questioning now.
Yeah.
Understanding Bitcoin, right? The food racket,
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
everything that you thought you were told as a kid, hey, this you should eat this, and this, and that. That might not be true. Obviously, pharma. There's a
Mhm.
whole racket with that, and I haven't went down those rabbit holes specifically of like, exactly what food to eat. I'm still trying to figure that out myself and diet wise and things like that. But you just start to again question everything. Obviously, that the government doesn't have your best interest. Yeah, like I'm kind of like an anarchist. I take after Eric Carson and just like I want the government as small as possible. I want
Mhm.
them out of my life, and they should only be there for like to put criminals in prison and just to make sure they're like as Larry Lepard calls them, like a referee. They just
Mhm.
are a fair referee. Um, so yeah, I mean, it just makes you question everything because if you're like, well, if money isn't real and it's not what I thought it was, well, then what about everything else I learned? So just it's like a never-ending rabbit hole of different things you can dive into to learn more about.
Yeah. Yeah. As a doctor, Bitcoin has made me approach what I what I do for a living completely differently
Hmm.
because I've just been completely indoctrinated and told that this is how things work. But if you just peel it back a little bit, you realize that there's so much more to it.
Yeah.
And um, yeah, it's been crazy to know that what I've been doing for the last 15 years is just it's not what it appeared to be, and it's actually this completely different game.
And I can only imagine as a
Yeah,
doctor, because you go to school for all those years learning all that
yeah,
information, and then you go down the Bitcoin rabbit hole, and all that stuff starts to kind of crumble. Yeah, I can't imagine
yeah,
how that journey was for you. I would love to hear your perspective on that sometime as well, you know.
yeah. Yeah, it's been crazy. I'm still trying to sort it all out, and
Yeah.
it's this whole deep rabbit hole that I'm going through. And my goal is to go through this rabbit hole and then um, use that information to teach other Bitcoiners and other people in the same way that we've been orange pilled about money. My goal is to orange pill people about health.
Love it. I love it.
Yeah,
Yeah, and as we know, they go hand in hand, right?
yeah,
So that's awesome.
yeah.
That's awesome.
And just getting back to your Substack, you talk about going all in on Cardano, and
Yeah.
so so now you realize that that's not the right way to go. But how would you describe to people the difference between Bitcoin and altcoins? And what was it that made you finally realize the difference
Yeah.
between altcoins and Bitcoin?
Yeah, in that Substack, I said I don't even remember how I found Cardano, like or why I decided to go all in on Cardano. I can't even really remember. I just knew I think it was like one of the top 10 cryptos, and I was under the impression at that time that like as some of the altcoin traders to this day still say, oh yeah, Bitcoin's gonna run first, but then the altcoins are gonna run harder and outperform Bitcoin. And I guess I was under that impression. So um the difference between Bitcoin and altcoins are, as we know, Bitcoin has no CEO, no founder team, no pre-mine, no, um, it's just not centralized. Where altcoins, that is the complete antithesis. They are centralized. They have a pre-mine. They're highly controllable, and we know with like Ethereum and stuff, they've had different forks and things like that where the Ethereum Foundation, I think in 2016 or 17, had like a hack and they basically like rolled back the
Mhm.
blockchain to like, what I'm saying, circumvent the hack. So none of that stuff can happen in Bitcoin because there is no one person to go to. Whereas Ethereum has that person to go to with Vitalik. Cardano has that person with Charles Hoskinson, and XRP has that with Brad Garlinghouse and Ripple team. So, and then you understand too, which is important for me, is that none of these things can be money if there is a CEO, if there is a founding team, if there is a pre-mine, right? None of that can that automatically discounts them as money because they have those things. So then that made sense for me. Oh, Bitcoin has none of those things, then Bitcoin has a fair shot to be money. Just as of course, like as we call it, a digital commodity, as gold served as money, in the past. So
Hmm.
I think that was a really like the leading indicator for me is that it's just again, altcoins have all the CEO, the founding team, centralization, pre-mine, and Bitcoin was the complete antithesis of that. And it was pretty simple for me to go all in on Bitcoin after that. Once I made
Yeah.
that clear distinction.
And you mentioned in your writing about how Bitcoin, it's not about making money anymore. It's about making a statement.
Yep.
So what is the statement that you make when you opt into Bitcoin?
Yep. It goes back to just what we discussed earlier, just that it's like you're giving the middle finger to the fiat system.
Yeah.
Really, it's just like you can't debase me, you can't steal my time and energy, and you can't siphon off my time and energy to go bomb kids in the Middle East. Like that is not allowed anymore on my dime, and I'm just gonna move my energy into Bitcoin, and that's it. Like all that goes away. So I always just look at it just from that standpoint. It's a middle finger to the fiat system, and you're not complicit in allowing them to just siphon off your time and energy to do things that would be this just like we're disgusted at, bomb or war bombs and just uh drugs and everything like that. It's just again, we're just like revolting against all of that, being on the Bitcoin standard.
Yeah. It's crazy how before Bitcoin, we didn't have that option at all to opt out. We
Yeah.
we had to be a part of that system. But now we actually have an option, and it's
Yeah.
it's such a beautiful thing.
It really is. And again, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier of imagine if there wasn't Bitcoin. Imagine if we had to try to find another out. What would be the other out? Like, I guess the second best would be gold, maybe. But, obviously gold isn't portable. Gold isn't, you can't send it across the internet. Obviously gold has its own flaws. Its supply increases. So, yeah, I don't know what we would be doing without Bitcoin. So yes, we all say thank God for Bitcoin.
Yeah, I think about that a lot, and that's another reason why Bitcoin is deeply spiritual,
hmm
because it came along at the precise time that humanity needed it most. If
I
if we
think about
didn't
that
have it,
often
yeah,
too. Like, yeah, I'm sorry to cut
yeah,
you off. I
yeah,
literally
yeah,
think about that often all the time. Like, and that's why I think I said earlier that it was almost kind of like a godsend because, like, and I think Larry Lepard has mentioned it before. Like, it seems like everything lined up at the perfect time for Bitcoin to be created. Like Bitcoin couldn't have worked without the internet. So we've had
hmm,
the internet, and that just continually evolving through the 90s to the early thousands, and then boom, Bitcoin arrived on the scene, and it was like perfect timing, post '08, the great financial crisis, everything is just in like messed up and ruined. People are starting to finally see how corrupt the bankers and that whole system is. And then a year after, you have Bitcoin. Like it is just almost divine, like it's just like, wow, thank you for this gift that we can now build upon. And so yeah, it really is like a gift from God. That's
yeah.
how I look at it. Mhm.
And how long do you think it'll take for this vision of the global renaissance to start for us to start seeing that?
Yeah, I oscillate on time periods. It depends on how quickly the fiat system crumbles on itself. Like if we go in, I don't know if you're familiar with like the fourth turning, that
Yeah,
ideology.
yeah.
I mean, if we really are in the fourth turning, which I think we are, and stuff really starts to accelerate, we could be on a Bitcoin standard by 2035, 2040. Or, but if that's not the case and the fiat system continues to limp along, it could maybe last for another 40, 50, 60 years. And then, hopefully more and more people are starting to understand the problem. And then we all just gradually get on the Bitcoin standard. And then we can start to usher in that new world that we want to see. So I don't have a definitive time period. I hope obviously because I want to see it sooner rather than later.
Hmm.
But I think it kind of just depends on one, the education, educating as many people as we can, and two, just how quickly the fiat system crumbles because it's really going to accelerate if we go into hyperinflation in 2035, 2040. Then people will have no choice but to try to find any way they can to protect their time and energy. But if again, if this the fiat system, which can if it can limp on for a longer and longer and longer, it might be prolonged, but we're eventually going to get there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great answer because yeah, there's no way anyone can predict it. And
Right.
oftentimes, as Bitcoiners, we get impatient because we want to see it happen sooner rather than later. But what I recently started realizing is that regardless of how quickly it happens, when people look back at this time period that we're in right now,
Mhm.
they're going to see that this was the beginning of that global renaissance. So we're in it right
Yeah.
now, essentially. So
Right.
whether
Yeah.
it starts in 5, 10, 15 years or 30 years, it doesn't matter because we're in the beginning right now. And
Yeah.
how lucky are we to be here right now at the beginning of this global renaissance as it
Absolutely. And early
unfolds.
adopters.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I remember I think Jeff Booth once said that people talk about, oh yeah, like Bitcoin is the future of money. But we're already living in the future now for Bitcoiners, right?
Hmm.
Everything is getting
Hmm.
cheaper for us over time. Um, yeah, we're already in the future now. So we're just waiting for the rest of the world to catch up.
Wow,
Really.
that's deep. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
deep. So true too.
Yeah, exactly. So, um, and think about all the freedom and optionality that Bitcoiners have gained from adopting Bitcoin. Eventually, like I said, the rest of the world's going to catch on, but unfortunately, they're going to catch on at a later and a much higher Bitcoin price.
Yeah.
As you know, we just got it early. We've understood it early. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, well, I really appreciate you coming on. I know this is your first podcast. This is my second podcast, but
yeah,
whenever you get two Bitcoiners together, it's always a very interesting discussion, and you can feel the energy. And yeah, I can't wait to keep reading your stuff.
thank you.
Where else can people find you if they want to hear more about your thoughts on Bitcoin?
Yep, I'm on Instagram and Twitter at Nolan Martino all together. Substack at Nolan Martino as well. And I think that's about it. I'm on Instagram usually ranting on my stories or posting stuff, same on Twitter. And I'm continuing to write some more things for Substack. And I really, really, really enjoyed this podcast and I enjoy being able to have the opportunity to come on here. So thank you so much. And we definitely got to have a part two because we can
Absolutely.
get to talk about. I set up a Bitcoin family strategic reserve for my family. So we have like a
Oh,
family
okay.
fund, and I'm working on a Bitcoin consulting business as well, launching that hopefully here in the next coming weeks. So a lot more we can talk about. You know, us Bitcoiners can talk for hours and hours and
Yeah,
hours. So we'll definitely have a part two and have a catch up later.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Thanks so much for coming on, and good luck in your basketball game tonight.
And thank you so much. And yeah, talk soon.
All right, take care. I hope that you enjoyed this episode of The Signal. In a world drowning in noise, signal is everything. Most people are overwhelmed, distracted, and deceived, not because they lack intelligence, but because they've lost the ability to discern what truly matters. But signal cuts through the noise. And Bitcoin is pure signal. It doesn't promise, it doesn't lie, it doesn't bend to opinion or propaganda. It just is. And as the world descends into even more chaos, distraction, and distortion, your ability to identify signal, to recognize what's real, true, and timeless will be one of your greatest assets. So stay sharp, stay sovereign, stay tuned, because here on the Signal, we don't follow trends, we follow truth. I'm Dr. Satoshi, and in a world of noise, we are the signal.